I got early access to Subnautica 2, so here's my review of the game so far. I'm a real-life marine ecologist and internet gaming YouTuber, and Unknown Worlds generously invited me to experience Subnautica 2 before it's released to the general public. Here are my honest thoughts as someone with thousands of hours playing early access survival crafting games, and as a real-world marine scientist. Forewarning, this video will contain minor spoilers for early game content, but I won't be discussing the story or anything that wasn't already shown in official Subnautica trailers. It may be a spoiler for my review, but I think everyone deserves to experience this game blind for the first time. So with that, let's dive into the waters of Subnautica 2. To keep things simple, I'm going to divide my opinions into two categories: my experience as a marine biologist and ocean lover, and then my opinions as someone who spends altogether too much time playing video games. But first, the ocean is my first love, and I have so much to say about the biology, ecology, and oceanic design of this game. Subnautica 2 is by far and large the best designed ocean-based video game I've played to date. Everything about the creature design is leagues above the previous two games, and that's coming from someone who already adores the Subnautica series to begin with. As a real-life scientist, my research interests are focused on invertebrate ecology, aka the generally small stuff with no bones that most people don't give a second thought to. And I was beyond excited that Subnautica 2 was in many ways the exact opposite of that. The invertebrate populations are arguably more vital to this game than their vertebrate fishy counterparts, which is such a unique diversion from the genre overall, and even from the previous two games in the series. When I left the life pod for the first time and immediately saw not one, not two, but at least 5 different undeniably invertebrate critters, I legitimately had to step away from my computer to pet my dog because I was so happy. Literally, the first critter you're likely to encounter and need is a small sea slug that kind of resembles something between an apisthabronch and a nudibranch. And if you go just a tiny bit further, you'll find these little periscopic clown crabs that are just the perfect organismal design. Even beyond the life pod area, the game does not disappoint with its creature design. The 3 leviathans we've seen in the trailers are all invertebrate-inspired designs, between the cephalopod-style collector leviathan, the clamthulu guardian of the depths, and even the crab leviathan that wears coral as a hat. While the inspiration materials are definitely there, and we even got to see some of the inspirations in some of the concept art, these organismal designs are absolutely the most realistic, believable, and fun creatures I've encountered in any fictional creature design. Just look at the fact that the crab's legs are fully articulated the way that they should be, or the fact that the collector leviathan has a beak instead of a traditional mouth. Even the fact that the clam leviathan has so many eyes is related to real-world biology, although it's taken in a fantastical direction. I know that I'm biased towards invertebrates, so obviously I'm quite happy with the diversity of critters that I've found, but that doesn't mean that the vertebrate character designs are any less interesting. Without saying too much, there are plenty of shark-like creatures who have interesting behaviors we haven't encountered from anything else in the series. And just on a very basic level, it's just really nice that there are variants of the peeper equivalent in this game that you'll find mixed in with each other. No two creatures ever look completely identical to each other, and even just having the slight coloration differences really goes a long way. There's obviously more to it than that, but I'll leave you to figure out those details for yourself. Something else I found particularly enjoyable is that they actually give many of these creatures proper cladistics, and even potential Latin names that hint more towards their creature design. One of the first big creatures you'll encounter is the BFJ, which is assigned the Latin name Dactylbrachia gigas, and that's a detail I absolutely adore as a biologist, because dactyl and brachia generally refer to appendages, and gigas just means big. So the actual Latin name they assigned this jelly-looking thing really boils down to big arms. And that really is how a lot of scientific names work. Plus, like I said, these animals actually have some proper cladistics, filing them into various classifications of life like salps, tunicates, sea stars, etc., which is a level of detail I absolutely adore. Also, on a slightly nerdier note, a lot of these early game sessile critters are classified as gorgons, or soft corals, and I really appreciate that distinction. Most people don't know the difference between hexacoralia and octocoralia, or even know that there is a difference, so it's really nice that the game not only pays attention to soft corals, but properly calls them as such. Even though some of those are sponges pretending to be corals, which is another fun organismal design concept you're gonna have to learn more about later. Now, my special kind of biology isn't just about the organisms themselves, but also about the environments that they live in, and that's part of where Subnautica 2 really shines, in my opinion. I am partial to kelp forests as my favorite real-life ecosystem, so of course my favorite biome in the previous two games were their respective creepvine forests. But I think it says something that I don't even miss the presence of a kelp forest on this new planet. The environmental design in this game is by far and away the best that I have seen in an ocean-based video game for one that hasn't just copy-pasted existing Earth ecosystems. There are so many details and nuances that bring this world to life in fantastic ways, like the opalescent lacquer on the interior of these coral domes that invokes the feeling of the inside of various bivalve shells, or the way that the fish school in some biomes, but not in others. Or even like the way the water has a slight fog to it, so you don't see all of the shapes clearly, just hints of moving shadows or larger structures looming in the distance. Because of that and a few other things I won't spoil, if you're afraid of the ocean or have thalassophobia, I think you'll find Subnautica 2 to be the scariest game yet. But for me, I love the ocean and these games have never been scary for me. If you've watched either of my playthroughs of the original Subnautica or Below Zero, you'll undoubtedly know that the player interactions with the alien lifeforms are one of my favorite aspects of these games. I love hand-feeding a stalker in exchange for a piece of scrap metal. I love teaching the sea monkeys to bring me titanium. The interaction with wildlife are what make the difference between a game leaving me wanting more, and my internal 6-year-old being happy that I could be friends with every animal on the planet. Unfortunately for me in particular, my primary interaction with local fauna in these games usually involves me keeping a running tally of how many fish I've run over in my submarine, but all of the more normal interactions make the experience so memorable. This is another area where Subnautica 2 meets and exceeds expectations. Those same two little benthic invertebrates I mentioned at the beginning already feel so much more reactive to the player's presence. The sea slug vibrates when you get too close to it in what I assume is fear, and the periscopic clown crabs will just pop up and kinda look at you. Trust me, it is not uncommon for animals to watch and judge what you are doing underwater. If you're lucky, you even get pet crabs who really like your gloves. Compared to the first games, where if a creature wasn't intended to have a specific interaction with the player, it would just default to speeding away from you, the diversity in the interactions in this game just feels really good already. There are even some really cute in-game interactions between various organisms, like fish running and hiding in some of the soft corals. So to summarize this, Subnautica 2 is really good from a biologist's perspective. It's imaginative, fun to interact with, and enjoyable to explore these ecosystems. But that's enough rambling about my biological perspective. Let's talk about how Subnautica 2 feels as a game. This video isn't sponsored, they aren't paying me to say this, but Subnautica 2 has been by far the most polished and complete experience of any early access game that I've played. Yes, there are occasional bugs and mistakes that you'll find, but the only ones I've personally encountered so far in over 20 hours of gameplay are a fish going through a wall once, and a missing texture on a sliver of the floor. Technically, some of the lockers can look a little bit wobbly when you want to place them, but actually placing them is totally fine. Compare that to known bugs in other fully released AAA titles, and I'm willing to let the fish physics slide a little bit. So with that frame in mind, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the in-between. The gameplay itself is the highly addictive core loop that you've come to know and love from the Subnautica series. It begins with the head trauma that is seemingly a staple of the series, and from there, it's the drive to explore, to investigate, and to venture deeper into the unknown. The starting area itself is pretty shallow overall, usually ranging between 20 to 50 meters, although some areas do go a little bit deeper. The later game stuff goes a lot deeper, and we know that even deeper biomes are coming in the future. Overall, the main aspects of the gameplay are probably what you're expecting, but almost all of them have been improved to some degree. One of the single best quality of life updates in Subnautica 2 is that the scanner actually has this little radar for things you can scan, including critters and blueprints, and once you've scanned something once, it won't appear on your radar again. As someone who loves to 100% games, it's nice to not have to double check if I've scanned everything in a given area because the scanner will check for me. It still leads you to repeat blueprints if you want the extra titanium, but the added HUD is just a nice way to guarantee that you're actually finding everything you're meant to find. The tools themselves also feel like improvements on previous iterations we've already experienced. Notably, the Wakemaker that replaced the Sea Glide feels functionally very much the same, but it has the benefit of taking up far less of your screen and not blocking the center of your vision. Also, when you want to change batteries, it auto defaults to the most charged battery, but you can still change it to any battery that you have in your inventory. Another aspect of the game that I wanted to highlight is the base building, which is by far the best iteration of this mechanic that we've seen from the series yet. I pride myself on designing functional yet aesthetic bases in any game that I play, and this is the first Subnautica game to give me more skill expression in that regard. Probably the single most powerful change they made is that there are no more one-size-fits-all multi-purpose rooms or large rooms, and instead, it's up to you to actually shape and lay out your design with the highly modular rooms that can merge into each other. Actually, pretty much everything about the base building is highly modular, and that means you can really go ham in getting things exactly the way you want them to be. On that note, the second best quality of life update is the shrink feature within the building system that allows you to change the size of your structure without removing and rebuilding the entire thing. Plus, they added a way to actually move constructed pieces without having to fully destroy and rebuild them, which is really nice. Of course, as someone who loves base building in these types of games, there are always going to be additional features and things we want added to the game. Right now, my personal wishlist for expanded base building features is a customizable room height, more rounded shapes or round corner pieces, and angled or curved roof elements. That being said, if I can build a believable galleon in Raft of all games, I am positive that people more creative than me will make some absolutely insane builds with what's already in this game. I'm also going to throw in here that the interior lighting in this game is just absolutely gorgeous, and I absolutely adore the way the waves look in the moon pool. But overall, yeah, the base building is good, and I'm certain that more build and decoration options will come with time. The only downside to really good bases is that they have a high material cost, and it's fairly difficult and/or time-consuming to get enough titanium in the early game to build something that feels fulfilling. In my playthrough, I've probably spent about 4 hours on resource runs so far, and I still find myself running out of titanium. There are solutions to that problem later in the game between tool upgrades and some new gameplay features that I'll let you discover for yourself, but if you're someone who likes having a spacious base with lots of windows, be prepared to do a bit of grinding. I said that I won't discuss the story here, and I won't, but know that I've found the story to be captivating and engaging, as well as pretty well paced. It's the same kind of thing as the other games, where you can decide when and how you want to engage with the story, rather than being shoehorned down a linear path. Much like the previous games, you'll get signals indicating a place that you may want to investigate, but the rest is up to you. And for getting there, you'll eventually want to get one of these bad boys, the first submersible, called the Tadpole. I am in the camp that preferred the Sea Moth to the Sea Truck, and I can confirm that the Tadpole does feel more in line with the Sea Moth, especially once you attach the chassis to it for a bit of extra speed. I know we're getting a bigger sub later in the game, but for now, the Tadpole does everything you need it to, and it feels good to drive. You are slightly less likely to damage it by driving into the sides of every cave you enter, and it has a lot more of the maneuverability from the Sea Moth. I do like the fact that it has some of the gameplay features of the Sea Truck, and I'm excited to see what other chassis we'll get for the Tadpole to see if that increases its customizability. In terms of game length, I'd say it's definitely worth the money. I will be putting my full Marine Biologist Plays All of Subnautica 2 video out later this week, but there was actually too much for me to edit in time for the release, if that tells you anything about how much content is really in the game. Actually, I asked some of the other creators who also got early access to the game how long their runs were, and the lowest answer I got was 15 hours for a story-only playthrough. And the highest answer I got was 40 hours from someone who wanted to explore every nook and cranny. That's already roughly the same amount of playtime to beat Below Zero, and this game isn't even done yet. So I'd say the playtime value is there, and I do think there will be more replayability to Subnautica 2 for other fun gameplay reasons I'm attempting not to spoil. There's plenty more to the game, but I'm trying to stay true to my word of not spoiling anything, so just take my word for it that the game feels good to play, and I've had a good time playing it. All in all, my central question was whether or not Subnautica 2 is worth purchasing in early access, and my answer is a resounding yes. This game already feels more polished and complete than many others that I've played, and knowing how much is in store for future development just makes me even more keen on the game. If you've enjoyed either game in the Subnautica franchise thus far, I'd be hard-pressed to find a reason you wouldn't like this one too. In my opinion, it takes everything they did so well in the first game, learned from both the joys and failures in Below Zero, and combined it into a magical gaming experience I think everyone should try for themselves. Plus, this one has built-in multiplayer, so if you get too scared of the deep dark deep down, you can sacrifice one of your friends instead of yourself. My marine biologist's heart was happy and fulfilled during my playthrough, and I hope that others experience that same joy in theirs. If you end up giving it a try, let me know what you think. I'm really curious to see what people have to say about the mechanics I'm intentionally not spoiling. But if you made it this far in the video, I'll be streaming Subnautica 2 tomorrow, Friday the 15th, and I'll be giving away 10 Steam keys to the original Subnautica game throughout my stream. And failing that, I'll be giving away another 10 keys when my Let's Play of Subnautica 2 goes out, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, I think that's everything for me for now. I hope you enjoyed. Please consider leaving a like if you did, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really helps me out. I hope to see you all again soon, but until then, have a great day.